The next part of PC building we're going to go over is the storage drives. The first type of storage drive that I'm going to show you how to install is the SSD. First, to install an SSD, you're going to have to find the mounting bracket that your SSD is going to use. Mine was located on the back side of my case. From here, unscrew the mounting bracket from your case so that you can mount your SSD to it. Once you have that, screw your SSD into the mounting bracket. It could be screwed in either through 4 screws on the back side, or it could use the 4 screws on the side of the actual SSD. Once you have your SSD screwed in, now all we have to do is reattach the mounting bracket to the case. Simply do the opposite of what you did earlier. In my case, I'll be screwing the bracket back into the case mount point. The next thing we're going to go over installing are hard drives. The first step of this process is to identify where your hard drives need to be installed inside the case. This will differ on a case-by-case basis as there are a bunch of ways that hard drives can be installed. My case uses a removable hard drive cage. Because of that, the first step of the process is to remove this cage from the case. I do this by unscrewing the cage with the 4 screws at the bottom of my case. Once you have determined where your hard drives go in the case, the next part is to determine which way your hard drives need to go in that mounting point. You can do this by aligning the screw points in the cage with the screw points in the hard drive to determine where it needs to be lined up. However, some cages may only have 2 screw points, so you can also determine it by looking at the connectors on the hard drive. These connectors will need to face the rest of the case so that they can be accessible and be plugged in. Once you have determined the alignment of the hard drive, you can now place the hard drive into the mounting mechanism and screw it in. Now that all my hard drives are in, I need to put the cage back into the case and screw it back in. Place the cage back in its proper position in the case, and then screw it in at the bottom of the case. Once the cage is properly secured and tight, you can move on to the next step, which is wiring up the drives. Now that we have installed all of our drives, it's time to connect them to the motherboard. This is done with the SATA data cable. These cables will come with your motherboard, but you may also have some extras that came with the drives. These connectors come in an L shape that will help you to determine the alignment that you put the connector in. Match this L shape with the L shape on your drive. Once you have connected the SATA cable to your drive, it's time to connect that cable to your motherboard. Consult your motherboard manual to see where these SATA connectors are. You should also check the SATA connectors themselves, as some may be faster than the others based on what they're controlled by. Once you have found where you should connect these connectors on the motherboard, go ahead and connect it into whatever slot that is. You'll know you have connected the drive when you hear an audible click from the SATA connector. This is simply the locking mechanism clicking into place. If you need to disconnect the cable, you'll have to push the middle tab on the top of the connector down and then pull it out.